What's going on, everyone? This is Brian Turner here with the No Stress Midwest podcast. We are in season 6. That's 6 seasons already down, or 5 seasons already down. And it's just, I said in the first episode, it's kind of crazy to see how this has progressed from our pilot back in 2020 to now having themes. And I think our guests are getting a lot better, and in this case, a lot better looking. For episode 2, we have Mr. Liam O'Connell with the USL. Liam, how's it going, man?
Good, Brad. Good to hear from you, man. Thanks for the time today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for being a guest, dude. So Liam and Liam used to live here in KC, which is kind of how we were first connected. He took a big job down in Florida with the USL, working at their academy. But we've still been able to kind of manage to stay in touch, stay connected. And he's also been just such a huge help with me and my personal coaching journey and career. So it's really good to have people like him in high places that can look out for you. So Liam, I want to thank you for that. I've kind of built you up here, so you're at the top. It's up to you, man, to stay there. Okay.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
So Liam, talk to us and talk to the listeners just so we can kind of get this out, not out of the way, but kind of get started with it. What is your exact role within the USL, and kind of what's your not even day to day, but your roles and responsibilities with that?
Yep. So I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity right now to serve as the technical director of USL at our league offices based here in Tampa. The easiest way to explain what that means is I oversee player, coach, and youth development initiatives across the full ecosystem. So our professional ranks, Championship, League One on the men's side, Super League, which launches next year on the women's pro side, League Two and W League, our amateur men's and women's senior team platforms, and then USL Academy, which is obviously the player development platform that connects all of those senior team men's and women's leagues. And that was really the first major project, and still one of my main purviews is really overseeing the USL Academy platform, how we expand, how we get clubs building academy pathways in their communities to these senior teams. So I think that's probably the easiest way to explain what is a wide-ranging job,
What it
like
is.
you said.
So now I want to continue on with that, but I want to just pause for a second. And you mentioned the Super League starting next year. So the Super League, is that going to be for 2024 or is that going to be 2025?
2024. So we'll have somewhere
That's
between
awesome.
8 to 10. Yeah, it's incredible. Like we'll have somewhere between 8 to 10 clubs participating in the inaugural season. We're going to be, we've aligned to the calendar actually with the global game, the European calendar. So you're going to see it start in the fall, have a little bit of a winter break, and then conclude in the spring months. Obviously, very intentionally going with that model. And I think you're going to continue to see USL evolve to really be like a global a domestic representation of the global game that we all follow, you know?
Okay. Well, you've kind of teed me up already for a question, but I'm definitely going to wait for that one. I'm going to wait because I want to get through some good stuff first here.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah. So, okay. So within the USL, you're there at the corporate office, you said, in Tampa.
Yep.
Do you have a lot of interaction with the USL Championship and the USL League One, Super League, League Two, and all of that? Or is it is it very much you work with the academy, Championship works with Championship, League One works with League One, and so on?
Honestly, it's a good question. And it's like my favorite part about how we've designed our sporting department, which also includes Jason Collister, who oversees the League Two and Academy side of the men's pathway, and Sarah Brady, who oversees the W League and USL Academy girls side. And the whole point of USL Academy is we're only going to launch an academy setup if it is pointing towards a senior team.
Okay.
So the beauty of this is, like, I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I was on a call with our ownership group for a League One club, a market that will be announced publicly next month.
Okay.
Where we're going to be bringing League One there in 2025 or 2026. So I've already been working with this ownership group for over 6 months and they are not just coming to build a pro team, it is a full pathway. So you're going to see them have a USL Academy set up their sporting director that they're going to hire shortly after the announcement in Q1 or Q2. His first job is to establish that academy plan and how that
Okay.
will feed into the first team. So like when we have audit calls, you'll
Yeah.
see it's a combination of sporting director or GM, head coach of the first team, and academy director, so that it's an integrated conversation about that
Everyone's
player
on that
pool
same.
and
Yeah.
pathway. Yes,
Now,
that's the aim.
okay, so I'm gonna throw this out here just because I have to. Is there any chance you're gonna break the news on this League One team here? Can we say we heard it here first, or do we have to wait?
We're gonna unfortunately have to wait
We
on
have
that
to
one.
wait. I understand. I had to do it, Liam. I had to.
If I could, I would.
Yeah, I do. You know, like I said, I have to throw that out there. Well, so between the academy and then any professional team level, League One championship, does the pathway always have to include the USL League Two team, or is there
A good question.
opportunities or chances where it goes from academy straight into the first team?
That's the right now that you see that actually more often because we're positioning the USL Academy League to be a U20 team because we even have now overage rules where you can play overage players from your first team like you see in the UK and their
Yep.
U21
Yep.
UPL2. It's a very similar model. So like pros are consistently playing in the USL Academy League as well.
Hmm.
So it's just a slightly different model in the way we've set it up in that regard, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of good things. There's a lot of good things in the works there in the Tampa office. Let's kind of go back a few more years and talk kind of how you made that jump into this role currently, right? Talk
Yeah.
to us about what you were doing here in KC with sporting and what that role and position was, and what made this position at the league office so attractive, other than it being in Tampa and us being here in Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's easy to get used to Tampa living, and it has some
I
perks that Kansas City in the Midwest does not. But
as I look
not to say I don't
outside,
love it.
and it's 43 and raining, and I can see the sun shining through, and the window's not even in your background. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I will have my window down on the drive home tonight.
Yikes.
um,
Okay.
no, but an apology. So this was so at Sporting Kansas City, I was overseeing the youth soccer department,
Okay.
and really, it was a department that kind of the way I explain it is, while yes, my passion in that role and was to help drive player development, talent identification, and coaching education initiatives
Hmm.
from the academy and the first team out into the grassroots community. Um, it it was also a vehicle, the Sporting Club Network and the Academy affiliate program, right, and our camps
Hmm.
and clinics and all that was also a vehicle for fan and business development. And so I
Okay.
think it gave me a really unique opportunity to understand that, like, look, there's a lot of guys like us who just love the game. We were
Hmm.
former players, coaching became a natural thing, and like we're purists about like doing what's right by the game. Well, guess
Yes.
what? Most of the people investing in pro soccer are not purists. They're business people who see a business opportunity. Let's just
We
be
just
honest,
want
right?
and it's
But
about the money, right? Which
you know what? It's a
it's a
for-profit
business.
entertainment
Yep, it's a
industry.
business. It's a business. So I get
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, and so look, so what it allowed me to do is I think really learn that balance, right? Where everything you want to do in coaching ed and player dev and talent ID is generally going to seem like a cost at first. But if you do it in the right way, especially in entering into your youth soccer communities,
Hmm.
you can build mutually beneficial relationships,
Hmm.
right? Ones where you're giving back in that space and you're creating relationships where in return they want to be a fan of the club. They want to support game days, broadcasts, and drive revenue as a fan
Yep.
or increase the exposure so that the club can then sell for bigger corporate partners or better broadcast deals, right? So it all feeds into itself, but you can't if a club just focuses on the business and fan development, they're going to alienate the true soccer people because they're going to see through that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
at the same time, if you're it's not going to be a very sustainable business model if you're not also like still
Yeah.
intentionally driving revenue and fan development, right? So what was really unique is I just learned a lot about the landscape of American soccer.
Okay.
and how communities big and small interact in the game, and how to connect those communities and those important influencers in those soccer communities with these pro clubs and pro pathways, in a way that made them feel like they're getting something from that relationship, even if they are giving up their best player,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
promoting their best coach to leave the club. And so,
They see it's for the greater,
USL,
it's for the greater good type of thing.
you would hope, right? And that's the
Yeah.
goal. Is like, and here's where you think about like how you flip the dynamics. So like I've seen now instances where there were markets where you just have youth clubs that would just fight against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they market, I won this and I won that to recruit the next best player. Look at how we changed the dynamic now, though, right? Where now what these youth clubs are actually saying, I sent 5 kids to Sporting Academy. Well, I sent 7. And if that is now what you're using to market yourself, that
Yeah.
is mutually
Yeah.
beneficial, and it is for sure in the greater good of
Yeah.
the direction I feel the pay to play game needs to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so through that, it was funny. I was actually being tasked to build an academy affiliate league to get all the sporting affiliates playing
Yeah. In the
in a
same.
space where we
Yeah.
could better monitor the high potential players who weren't ready to move to Kansas City and be in the academy, and and just drive a different standard that we weren't seeing in some of the Midwestern leagues at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, funny enough, I had a buddy, a former intern from Sporting KC, who was working at the USL League office. I didn't have the bandwidth to run the league.
Yeah.
So I tried getting USL to run the league for me back in the day, like
Back
before they
then.
ever did
Yeah.
the rebrand. And so we got to know each other. And then when they were looking to launch what is now USL Academy, like a pro player development system, my name was
Popped
on that
up
short
right there.
list.
Yep.
And because of the work I had done in KC, and now I essentially think I'm basically replicating a hybrid of like what I did with the affiliate network and what was built with Sporting KC's academy, and like
Mm-hmm.
finding a way to create a setup like that that's collaborative within all of these markets. You know what I
With
mean?
all the, yeah, all the USL clubs.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Have you heard the big news? No Stress Midwest has found a new home at the soccer lot located downtown Kansas City. Swing by and check out our new training facility as well as our classroom. We'll be hosting our tutoring sessions. Be sure to also check out our player lounge, which includes a TV, FIFA, ping pong, and a tech ball table for all of the needs of our trainees. So now, does when we mention the word academy, I feel like especially in the soccer realm, we're thinking youth sport, youth soccer, 13, 14, 15, so on. Is the USL Academy the same as that, or is that a higher level, and maybe each club has to have, or does not have to have, but possibly and usually does have their own academy program that they just kind of run within the club?
Yep. It's a good question. I actually spoke to this with our Santa Barbara ownership group recently, who will hopefully be stepping into the USL Academy space next year as they build towards their League One and Super League launch. Um, like for us, we're trying to, again, the term academy, like you said, has been bastardized in this country.
Mhm.
It's used in so many different ways. But like, again, when you look at the global game, an academy is effectively a preparatory school for pro footballers,
For the Yep,
right?
yep, get
And
you
it
to the first
and
team.
academies are immediately connected to a local senior team.
Mhm.
It's there, you can touch it, feel it, it's attainable, the pathway's clear. It's integrated in terms of the staff that are working together between those levels. That is what we're trying to make first and foremost. This green A means it's a U20 team that immediately feeds into a men's or women's amateur team. We have unique rules, not just like the overage dropping down, but we're the only soccer competition in this country where we require a minimum number of younger players. So you have to include a minimum number of U17s on this roster. So at some point, yes, you should be picking the best U17 player over the sixth best U19 player
Right, right,
based on his potential,
right,
right? Not just
right.
maybe his ability to perform and win
At that
the
moment,
U20
yeah.
game. Then
Right.
that's not the point of this. So, like,
Yep.
while yes, next week we're going to be excited to crown a Academy League final champion after the regular season and our finals tournament next weekend, that's not the measure of success.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, we're going to have between the 16 teams next week, we're going to have 9 pro clubs. Of those 9 pro clubs, 35 of the players between the rosters are already on academy or pro contracts. They train within the pro environment every day in the Championship League One. This is 4 of them are pros. And the
Right.
crazy thing is, one of them is coming off the U17 World Cup, and we should have had 3 more kids, another U17 World Cup player at this tournament who are current pros, but they're not going to be there now because guess what? They're on trial in Europe. And like traditionally, like you'd think, oh, isn't that a bad thing? Hell no,
Right.
we're
No,
celebrating
that's
that
yeah,
even more.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is actually better than them being here helping their club win a
Definite right. When
U20
a
tournament.
trophy, that a medal that in the big picture, I mean, you talk about winning trophies, but it's first team trophies that are the ones you bring home. Everything else is just preparing you to get that first team trophy.
Yeah, and so that's ultimately the measure of success for us, right? Is actual player production, right?
Yeah.
And again, like let's have an honest conversation on this call today. Like the reason I got hired and why we're investing and why our clubs are investing in this is because in international football, there's a business model to long-term player development
Yeah.
through the transfer market and training compensation and solidarity payments. And you're now just seeing USL and MLS clubs, American clubs, enter into the global market,
Hmm.
right? And again, this is a key revenue stream that can then be reinvested into your training environment, your coaches, your players' experience. So it's an exciting time because I'm telling you now that some clubs have been successful in improving that business model. As you've
Yeah.
seen USL kids go to Europe for significant transfer fees, there's a lot more USL clubs that have been and are going to be investing heavily into this space in years to come, which is exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think competition right on the field is good. We know that off the field is good as well. And I think one thing that I've kind of had to learn when I transitioned from player to not player is how to keep that competitive edge. How do I
Yeah,
stay competitive, but it's not me looking at the defender and saying like I'm going to get by you and score. It's okay, I want to launch something. So how do I beat this club to do it before, how do I beat them to it? How do I come up with the next idea to
yep,
take us into the next level? We obviously know that USL and MLS are competitors. So what is it, the things that you are doing at the USL that's a step ahead of MLS or something that they maybe or you're maybe 2 steps ahead of? So I get it. And I think it's cool, like just kind of hearing you talk about that and what the next kind of steps are, what we can expect is as normal folk that are just fans of the game. I think for myself and we both kind of talked about being purists. We both want just what's best for the game. So
yeah,
if we can create environments where players can develop and succeed, I always say we can put you in positions to be successful. The ones that succeed are the ones that then get to go on and go to trials in Europe and get those
yeah,
first team contracts and get those national team call ups, and all of that just kind of trickles down. And it's remember what gave them their base, what gave them the stepping stone for them to showcase their talent, right? And
yeah,
it's usually
yeah,
not
exactly.
the rec league where mom and dad are yelling at you to shoot the ball from midfield.
Yeah,
It's usually the next step or two after.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so I mean, so let's kind of talk. We've brought up, the competition part, and we've brought up, how USL and MLS are, I mean, different, equal, both have professional leagues, both have pathways to get there with, MLS rebranding with Next Pro and then Next.
Hmm.
Um, kind of talk to us. Is there, I'm not going to say, is there a way that USL and MLS merge, but do you see that maybe down the road that there's some signs of any bit of connecting or any bit of merger or any bit of anything like that? Or do you think that for the time being, both kind of leagues are set where they are and they're just going to move um, basically parallel with each other?
Well, you know me, I'm an optimist. So I'd like to think that they're, I think you also know, like, as you can see, like, American soccer is constantly changing,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it will continue, and the landscape will continue to change in the next
Mhm.
few years, the next 5 to 10 years. Um, and look, like the reality is, like we used to have a collaborative partnership, right, which was mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Both things are evolving, and honestly, just doing two different models of what pro soccer can look like in this country, which in typical American soccer fashion, like that's probably what you would expect, that there would be a
Yep.
Pepsi to Coke. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And I think that's the beauty of it again, right? Like they're almost like an American sports version of what pro soccer could look like. We're trying to create that European global version of what American soccer could look like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that most football people in this country who are working in USL or MLS or at a particular club would agree that the more that we can collaborate, the better that the landscape will be, right? That we're
Yeah.
all working towards common goals in growing the game. And I know that, US soccer's leadership is also, a proponent of trying to create that collaboration. And it does happen more than you would think,
Mhm.
um, that maybe is shown in the public eye. But it's something that we're always going to be receptive and open to, and as both of our pathways continue to evolve and the needs of the American player also change,
Yeah.
um, I think the door is never going to be completely shut, but as of today, yes, I suppose we're running in just different
Yeah.
directions, right? But still pursuing a lot of the same goals. And
Still
if
moving
anything,
forward. Still moving
yeah,
forward, just differently.
and I honestly think, like, cheesy or not, like it is one of those rising tides raise all ships thing, right? Like
Mhm.
they're forcing us to be better, we're forcing them to be better, which is
Yep.
ultimately only helping. And guess what? Creating more opportunities for players and coaches.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
Which
a
is
win in my
important.
book.
Which is important. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think I mean it's also like important to see because just a few years ago we had those MLS two teams playing in the championship, right?
Yep.
And duking it out there and um but with you all moving in one direction, although MLS is moving in another direction, it's still upwards, right? And it's still hopefully opening the doors for opportunities. Now, do is the ultimate goal of USL, I know you can't speak on behalf of MLS, um, but is the ultimate goal of the USL and MLS to have the best players of our country eventually stay here? Or is it still always the thing of pushing them to Europe because Europe will always be ahead of us and, you know, Barcelona's Barcelona, Bayern Munich's Bayern Munich, City is City, Chelsea, Chelsea, and so on.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, like MLS has publicly stated, right? Like one of their goals is to be a top five league in the world, which implies
Hmm.
that they do want to be competing to attract and retain talent against the current top five, which are,
Yeah,
you would argue, all in Europe.
yeah.
Um, we have some significantly lofty ambitions of where the championship could go, especially within CONCACAF and the global game collectively. Like, I don't think it needs, I think it has the potential to be a top league within the global ecosystem, as far as like what players are looking for. I do know we're very focused on providing pathways beyond USL right now, and in benefiting off of, like I said, the business model of the transfer market
Yeah,
that exists for player movement.
yeah.
And again, I go back to that statement I made earlier. Like, let's talk about the needs and wants of the modern American soccer player, especially the young, not just the young male, but now also the young female player.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're going to see a lot more Olivia Moultries and Jaden Shaws, more and more and more. Kansas City just signed a 15-year-old from St.
Yep,
Louis.
from St. Louis. Yeah.
There are girls participating in our USL Academy and W League platform already, where they want to play in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So here's the
Yeah.
way I look at it. It's like, look, you can either need soccer. If these kids want to go play in the Champions League, until we can replicate the same level of experience, they're gonna find a way to get
Right,
there.
to
So why
get
don't
there,
we
yeah.
help become the vehicle and
Yeah,
again create
to
a
get them
mutually
there.
beneficial pathway where we're helping them and we're getting something for advancing their career. That
Right.
is a huge piece. And again, I think the Super League is gonna really accentuate that dynamic because while yes, we want women's national team players to see the Super League as a place that they could play as well, we also
Mhm.
want young American females to feel like, and young American women to feel like this is a platform that can help promote and get them to
To
the
the next
Women's
level,
Champions
yeah.
League, you
Well,
know?
and the reality with the Super League and with the women's side of the game is you look at college, there's like 3 times as many women soccer programs as there are men, right? So then
Yep.
all of these players graduate, and there's only one league domestically that they can play in. So compared to
And there's also no freedom of deciding where you go.
exactly, exactly. So it's nothing's in their hands, you know?
Yep.
So then they get to the point where you get selected, what, you get maybe 3 rounds in the draft, and then all of those players are just sitting there trying to figure out what to do. You have a lot of them try to go overseas and go to Portugal and learn to, speak a new language and tough it out
Yep.
that way. But a lot of them stay here and try to, train on my own or get with the
Yep.
local trainer and whatever. But the reality is that window, it just gets smaller and smaller. Every day you're not playing at a high level. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
the only high level is one level here on the women's side. So I think the Super League is awesome. And I think it's going to open up a pathway to so many young women out there that want to play and then maybe are knocking right there on the door, but they don't get picked in the draft, and that don't have a connection with the local club. Maybe don't even live in the city with the NWSL team. So
And to
I'm
that point, I know there
excited.
was even and to that point, I know there was even a anecdotally, there was a girl who a year or two ago, she got a young woman who got drafted by Orlando, and she just
Mhm.
like for a number of reasons was not interested in being at that club, living in that community, right, for personal reasons, and so she ended up going to Liga MX Femenil,
Mhm.
and like, and great. I'm glad she still found an opportunity. Many don't, right? But
Right.
also, it's like that's kind of again, I think what's going to be really refreshing about Super League coming out and as USL keeps growing is like again, our clubs are independent and autonomous. We're not a centralized league office. We don't place players, right? And so essentially, like if if that young woman is from Tampa,
Mhm.
like she's just going to come to the Tampa tryouts, and if
Yeah.
they want to sign her, they have all the ability to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Like that's I think going to be a really cool story of the Super League. Are like these girls who maybe grew up playing youth soccer in their communities where we're launching these clubs, and they've left for college opportunities. Now it's like a homecoming.
To come back.
That's
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. I agree. Um, well, and the kind of while we're on the topic here, right, and we're looking at the growth and development of the game, do you think that there is any opportunity, or do you have any yes or no say on the pro rel conversation that always comes up, right? You're talking about
Mhm.
USL kind of mimicking the European philosophy, which we know they have promotion relegation. We see how what that does on the European scale, right? As Americans, we see the passion when, Leicester City goes down. We see when Luton Town comes up, right?
Mhm.
So there's that kind of passion there, but I also know that there's a money part to it. And I call them one of the blue blood clubs of MLS, Columbus Crew. Oh, you guys are going down to the second division, right? I know that that's something that's going to be very difficult from a business, market for them to kind of wrap their head around. It might not make sense. So talk to us kind of what are you able to say, and
Uh-huh.
kind of give your opinion on it.
Teachers, we want you. Are you a licensed teacher in the Missouri or Kansas KC metro area looking to make a couple extra dollars tutoring over the weekday and weekends? Well, No Stress Midwest is the place for you. No Stress Midwest Education is looking for teachers to help in one-on-one tutoring, small group academic enrichment, and study hall. We are looking for teachers to work on average 2 to 3 nights a week, 2 hours a night, in the subject of language arts, science, math, social studies, and foreign language. If you're interested, please visit nostressmidwest.com/education and fill out an application today. Cheers.
Well, it's another reason why I'm very passionate to stay at USL, and I believe in the vision that we have, and the new leadership that's come in this year is also a big believer of this. And I can tell you, like, we're very seriously exploring implement not just the idea of ProRail, but how and when we look to implement it.
Mhm.
Yes, there are differing opinions both internally and within our clubs as to is that a silver bullet that will help truly differentiate this as a soccer product in the
Right.
crowded American sports landscape? But there's a lot of really interesting data points, even culturally, over the past few years, like how people are gravitating to stuff like Welcome to Wrexham. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
or like, and again, like you see when they post viewership numbers for Champions League, World Cups, and and national team games, like it's a lot of these markets that now USL has a presence in that are like killing it with the
Mm-hmm.
top of the list for ratings, which shows there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of soccer fans in this country that they're looking that, but they follow the global game, right?
Yeah.
And that's just what makes sense to them. And I think the big thing that everyone would agree with, whether regardless of their appetite for, let's say, the business risk of
Yeah.
pro
Yeah.
rel, right?
Yeah.
High reward, but
I
high
mean,
risk,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Very high risk.
It is, but here's the exciting thing, and something that I think I give a ton of credit to our operations staff and our executive leadership staff here, is if you think about it, to your point, it creates far more games of consequence, as we call it,
Mm-hmm.
far more meaningful games,
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Which a are the more meaningful and competitive, the more it feels like there's something on the line, there's stakes involved in the game. The better the environment is for player development, for one
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to increase the likelihood that we're going to increase the value and quality of our players because they're going to be in more games that fucking matter. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's also the idea of like for fans,
I
right?
was gonna
Like
say fan
I know,
engagement. Yep.
dude. Like think about this. Like you probably watched I think it was the last weekend of the Prem this past year. That Nottingham Forest home game was the best game of the weekend,
Man,
no
yeah.
question.
Yep. Yep.
The
Yep.
crowd, like
Yep.
the limbs, like oh my god,
Yep.
like it was nuts,
Yep.
and that is replicable, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, I think you might there's already some rumors floating around Twitter, like there's a decent chance that like we're gonna actually, even as soon as next year, be able to start to implement some evolutions to the competition that will kind of like start helping introduce this idea and almost like kind of like prove this theory, like will the
Yeah.
American soccer fan gravitate towards this concept if the competition
Yeah.
has more games of consequence, more. And even like look at the Academy League finals and we're structuring that, right? Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
single elimination tournament next week, every game
Yep.
matters.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's a big thing, is that this is going to also decrease the likelihood that in the back third of the season you have just completely disenfranchised
Yeah.
fans because
Yeah.
and players and staff, even because there's
Yep.
nothing to play for,
Yep. Yep.
you know. And last thing I'll say is like the Open Cup and the FA Cup is incredible for the
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine if, right, like I love using this one as an example. Shout out Jonathan Wardlaw and Ante Jazik, who are running Little Rock Rangers
Yeah.
in the middle
Yeah.
of
They were just
Arkansas.
named. Yeah. They were just named. What? I just saw it. I just saw it on the
Yeah,
social
League Two
media.
award, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So they're just like an awesome club for a community that has always been overlooked by a state. The state doesn't have pro sports,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we'll be
They've
bringing
got
one
like
pro,
Razorback football. That's what they've got.
right? And don't get me wrong, and we're gonna bring a pro team to Northwest Arkansas, but Little Rock's a market that we see being bigger than League Two eventually. Hell, this year, Jonathan and his team, I think, got like 4 or 5 thousand fans out
At
on
a
two
game.
days in a row to the League Two playoffs that they hosted.
That's awesome.
Like that tells you there's something there, and like
Yeah.
what if they are like this crazy story of moving up the ranks like a Luton town,
Yep.
like
Yep. Yep.
Inter Miami versus Little
Yep.
Rock Rangers? Why
Well, yeah, let's see it.
not?
And what's so
Obviously,
cool,
that'll take some time, but
you mentioned that there's a guy who played for them this summer who I coached at Caw Valley
oh yeah,
2 years ago. His name's shout out to Campisi. He's this man baller. All I'm gonna say is he went from CMU here, NAIA, playing now at Gonzaga, Division One, and I know he had a great season with them. So they know how to bring
yeah,
in talent, which is good.
it's exciting, man. Good
Um,
for him.
yeah. Well, so Liam, we're kind of getting here to the end of the podcast. I want to know, is there anything that maybe you want to mention? Anything you want to shout out? Maybe there's something like not a falsehood, but maybe a part of your job that people don't realize is like really going on, right? Or that they don't realize how difficult it is doing this, or this. Um, or is your, maybe you're just like, yo, life is great, peace. How anything you want to end this with? You got a couple minutes here.
Uh, I guess I'll throw this one out there. So, because like everyone loves the expansion and soccer, American soccer Twitter especially loves this. There's always this new soccer wars to talk about and gossip about, and I think I think it's look like, and also like it's where we started the conversation, right? Like this is a for-profit entertainment business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the reality is like a lot of these soccer purists and people who just want to grow the game, like we're not the people who know how to make
The
significant
decision.
amount of
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and the cost to operate pro soccer is a lot. And the reason I say that is like, um, it's kudos to the staff that we have here that is working tirelessly to grow the game and to we have like over 50 communities that we are working on active pro expansion in right now in different
That's
ways, right?
awesome.
And like
That's awesome.
every one of those has a local political dynamic, a stadium play, an ownership group, a soccer community we need to support and connect into. And uh, if it was easy, a lot more of the 120 plus League Two teams would already be in
The
League
League
One,
One,
right? Like
yeah, or higher.
all
Yeah.
of those people, and like don't get me wrong, like you've got examples of the one Knoxes who have
Yeah.
made that
Yep.
jump, right?
Yep.
There are other markets like Little Rock who we are helping create a path towards League
That.
One
Yeah.
eventually, right? But you need the stadium and the resources to have a sustainable
Yeah.
business model over time, right? And so I think that's the reason why I believe in this project, right? Because there's no other entity in American soccer today that is investing in and operating in men's and women's,
Mm-hmm.
pro, amateur, and youth, right? At
Mm-hmm.
all levels, at all verticals, from small communities to big communities. There's we're the only entity, the only
Yeah.
stakeholder that touches every one of those
Yep.
areas. And I think that's powerful, and I think there's a reason why you're seeing a lot of these new expansion startups have both men's, women's, down to boys,
Down
girls,
to the
because they
bond.
want
Yeah.
this to be truly uh, uh, the future of that local
Mm-hmm.
soccer
Mm-hmm.
pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And the coolest part too is that again, I've been blessed to have this opportunity to get in the ear of these influencers and owners as they attach themselves to these markets and start investing in these plans. And luckily, because of the success of how we built this over the past 5 years, they're all very receptive to this best practice of working with your local youth soccer community, right?
Yeah.
And raising everyone up.
Everyone.
So
Yep.
regardless of where the soccer wars go between NWSL, MLS, NISA, and USL, and probably the other two that pop up in the coming years, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
regardless of that, this is improving and growing the
The
game.
game.
And
Yeah.
it's helping us hopefully get closer to realizing our potential as a footballing nation on both the men's and women's side. So clearly, I think you can tell it's something I believe in, and I'm excited to help play a part in continuing to chase that vision. You know?
Yeah. No, dude, I can sense the passion. Um, I have definitely walked away from this conversation a lot more the wiser, with the more understanding of USL and kind of what are some things that are going on behind the scenes. Um, I hope that the listeners are able to take something away from this as well. At this point, I just get happy. I'm taking stuff away. So, hopefully the listeners are. But Liam, dude, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. Um I mean you were awesome. You were given a lot of insight on the inner workings of the USL, which I feel like is a league that, because it's not the MLS and not the main one that America is kind of put out there as the league, it sometimes doesn't get the credit or respect. And for the people that don't follow the game, I mean, anyone that follows it knows the USL, but for the people that don't, I think you did a really good job of kind of explaining how it's the same but different, and how the growth will be the same but different than compared to the MLS.
I appreciate it, man. I really
Yes.
appreciate the opportunity. It's as always good to catch up with you, Bry.
Yeah, my man. So thank you. And for the listeners, thank you. This is episode 2, season 6 of the No Stress Midwest podcast. We have Liam O'Connell. Everyone, have a good one, and we will catch you on the next episode. Cheers.